Well, good morning, Matt.
Good morning, Jordan.
Good morning, Allie.
Good morning to me. Good morning, Will.
And good morning to all of you.
Welcome to Extra Breakfast Now Live. It is, well, first and foremost, this is normally a show where we talk about the week's gaming and tech news. We normally do it from the comforts of an animated kitchen. Right now, we are here at MAGFest 2023 on morning 2. I want to first make it very clear. I am so happy that any of you are here and awake and come to see whatever this is going to be at this time. It makes no sense, and I love you all so much for it.
Matt, it's a breakfast show.
It is a breakfast show. With that in mind, there's also something interesting that's happening before we actually start the panel proper. I've been told through the powers that be that we are not only being broadcast on Twitch, so hello to wherever that camera is, hi Twitch, but also, and what just because this is such a rarity, more excited for, this is a first in my professional life. We are being broadcast to the channel that is on all of the TVs when you turn them on in the hotel room at this convention center. So technically, if people fell asleep with the television on, they're waking up to this.
Woo!
So do we have...
Right. Yeah.
So maybe we just go down the line real quick and we do our best, what we want people at MAGFest to wake up with. What's the first message, Will, that you'd like to tell people who are waking up right now in their hotel rooms and seeing whatever this is?
You're late. For whatever it is, you're late. I'm sorry. It's happening right now.
Fair.
Hurry. Run. Swiftly.
I will just do a quick, I want to confuse what type of vacation they're on. So I'd give them it's time to get up. And maybe now they think they're either in Florida or California. Jordan?
I think in opposition to Will, I'd say you're not late. You're always on time for yourself.
That is precisely the way a wizard would say it. Allie?
Just whatever you are doing in your rooms right now, you don't have to stop on our account. We'll be here for you. That's it.
We're just staring dead-faced at everyone sleeping.
Yes.
No, all right. I just wanted to do that because it's such a rarity. Anyway, my name is Matt. My pronouns are he, him. I'm the showrunner and narrator of Extra Credits. With me, as always, is Will on this show.
Hi.
Our intrepid streaming overlord. And we have Allie and Jordan, who are artists on the various shows. Allie has done majors in extra history, and Jordan majors in So You Haven't Read and extra mythology. I'm sorry I just did all of your intros.
No, it's okay.
He, him is the only thing you missed.
Yeah, I did.
So.
Well, I won't do that for other people other than myself.
I feel seen.
There is. We're going to do a couple things today. We're going to show you right after I'm done rambling, a video that is not released yet on YouTube or Nebula or any of that stuff. It has not been seen anywhere outside of this hall. Honestly, not seen by some people on the panel.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
that
who could that be?
expensive.
We're going to go on this journey together, everyone.
And then we're going to talk about a couple gaming sort of news stories to fill it out, and then we'll have some Q&A at the end if you all just want to chat with us about stuff. And if you do, anyone who asks a question will get a small token of our gratitude. Now, quick story about that.
Oh, God.
We normally give away merch for people that come and ask questions because like Zoe plushies or mugs or pins or things like that. And I've been working since December 9th to get something shipped to this place from our warehouse. Many kerfuffles have happened. Rumor has it that it will be delivered at 10:45 in like 2 doors down at that FedEx center. So Rosa, our friend, has been very nice enough to, while this is going on around that time, run out and see if we have giveaways for you. If we don't, we've prepped something even stupider. I think that's all the housekeeping. Is there anything else we want to talk about before we...
No, we should probably show them the video before they think that we're just up here to tell funny jokes for I don't know how long.
Again, you say that word. I don't think that word means what you think it means.
Funny
Funny.
or
Funny
joke?
joke?
I don't know. I think we're hilarious.
All right, let's see. Did this girl? There it is. All right.
One ping, if you please.
Here we go. Brand new Extra Credits episode, everybody.
Woo!
Woo!
Okay, weird question for you. How easy should it be to understand the quests you're playing in a game? I mean, at first the answer seems obvious, but then we dig a little deeper, and it definitely becomes more murky. When designers started making quests for video games back in the day, there was very little rigor behind their design, as the industry was just starting and everyone was amateurs learning as they went. So everyone just made quests that they thought were interesting. Puzzles to tease the mind, but a lot of them in early games were basically incomprehensible without a strategy guide. I'm looking at you, Simon's Quest. But as design became more formalized and it became more of a profession, people realized that wasn't, well, great. That those sort of quests frustrated players and often led them to put down a game in disgust. I'm calling you out, Castlevania 2. Wait, did James and I just separately take a dig at Belmont's sophomore outing for the NES in our individual script passes? Did that really just happen? Jeez, looks like the morning sun never quite vanquished that horrible curse it left in our minds. And you know, oddly, while typing out this silly occurrence that did actually happen, mind you, we both did this independently and had a good laugh about it, it kind of solidified the point. Quests like this can sometimes be so bad that they burn into a player's memory for years and not in a good way. Side note, I love Simon's Quest, it still makes me angry. That led to the prevailing wisdom that quests should actually be easy to understand. In fact, they should be so easy, you don't even have to read the quest text. Heck, you shouldn't even have to figure out who to go to get your quest from. Just slap a big exclamation point over the quest giver's head, and then when the player just wails through their text, a dot should appear on their map telling them exactly where to go. Ooh, and then when they get there, they shouldn't even have to figure out what to do, right? Rather, it should just sort of happen by them killing things in the area, or just sort of happen by going to another person with a giant exclamation point over their head, or even just sort of happen right when you arrive. And I hope you're getting by my tone that I'm being a little facetious here. That was the ideal that World of Warcraft popularized, and series like Assassin's Creed championed. And it stood as the design standard for almost a decade and a half before FromSoft brought to the fore the idea that quests should actually kinda sorta be confusing AF again. And now in the last few years, there's been a raging debate among game designers as to what direction to go in. So, let's list the 4 broad categories of how much work is needed to understand quests with examples. Maximal work, like Elden Ring, substantial work, like EverQuest, some work, like Genshin Impact, and no work, like Assassin's Creed. First up, the Elden Ring, this is totally opaque, I hope you have a guide, style of quest design, is perfect for forcing the player to really understand the world they're in. It makes them dig deep and truly try to piece together the lore in order to figure out not only what they're supposed to do on their quests, but if something is actually a quest at all. This is great, if your game can support it. Because to make this work, you better be absolutely sure that your world is actually that deep, that you've put enough in there that it's worth it to your players to really marinate in it. You also need to make sure that you're making the type of game where a player will want to do this. Because seriously, if these type of quests start showing up in my I've just had a long day at work, casual zone out and grind games, I'm probably going to start throwing some bows. EverQuest style of quests, on the other hand, are a little less opaque. They still come from the hardcore school of you have to search out your quests, as you don't have any little markers on your minimap and there really isn't a quest log per se, but at least you're pretty sure that something is actually a quest when you find it. Now, these are great for hardcore adventure, when you want your quests to be as tough as your gameplay and you don't want to have the player feel like you're holding their hand. But the quest grind is also integral to your gameplay. These still encourage your players to dig into the world and spend time researching when they can't be playing, but they also direct the player to search out quests, continually feeding them back into that part of your game loop. Next, there's the Genshin Impact style of quests, which we really should be calling a sort of hybrid style. In this, there's a lot of exclamation point above the head style quests, but also a fair number of quests hidden in the world that range from Zelda style puzzles to almost EverQuest levels of figure out this riddle from the lore. This approach appeals to a broad audience. There's something for everyone. And even if it doesn't quite provide the level of lore delving that the previous 2 methods do, it does tell all players that they're welcome here. But there's always a but, right? Because this method also requires that your game make around $1 billion every few months to sustain itself. Because to pull this off effectively, you need a lot of quests and puzzles. You need there to be a variety of them, meaning less reuse. You can't just have a million rat butt fetch quests. And you'll need to continually be updating them, since you have to split up your efforts and thus can only build a fraction of each type, because players will blaze through their favorite types fast. So, if you want to build a giga-successful MMO and happen to have a metric butt ton of working capital on hand, this approach seems like a reasonable plan. But if you're like the rest of us and are working on a game with a much more meager budget, you might want to rethink using this hybrid style. Which then leaves us with the exclamation over the head, go to this dot on your map style quests. And I know we were poking fun earlier, but I do think these got a bad rap for the longest time because they were kind of all that was out there for a while, at least in the AAA world. But the truth is, these too have their place. There are times when you want to play a game to tune out, to turn off, to just let go for a little while and not think too much. And this quest style is great for those moments. Though truthfully, they're not that great for narrative-centric games, because they encourage the player to simply click through the quests. Yet at the same time, they're also often still used in narrative-centric games because they also match the intensity of play perfectly. I mean, after all, if you're there for a story, you might not want some hardcore quest that's going to make you get up off the couch and find your phone so you can look up a guide on the internet. Yet, flipping back once again, because the way these quests are often incentivized with in-game rewards, they do encourage the player to simply do them as fast as possible, not lingering on whatever the quest giver might be trying to say. So to use this method, you have to strike a balance and find a way for these quests to be more than just things to be checked off a player's list. Now, with all that laid out, is there a clear answer to the question, how clear should your quests be? How much should your game hold the player's hand? Well, of course, there's not a definitive answer for that, because spoiler alert, everyone's different. But I think the point we're trying to make is that none of these methods are necessarily better or worse. Rather, they can just be applied in better or worse ways. So, when you're crafting your quests in your game, remember to ask yourself what your desired experience is that you want your players to have, and then design your quests around that. Are you going for a deep lore experience that demands a lot of the players going in? Or are you going for something more laid back, where the main goal is to give the player a sense of accomplishment? Both, of course, are valid, but both require different types of quests. And woe be to the designer who gets it wrong. You know who's just the best? Ahmed Ziad Turk and...
We don't have to watch the credits. Those are extra. Whoa.
How dare you?
How dare I?
I don't know. I just feel like, how dare you?
So the first thing I kind of want to talk about, though it's not necessarily like a news story, but just jumping off of what that video is. I was going to lean back and I can't. What are some of ours we're playing up here, sort of favorite styles of quests and why? Will, you play probably the most games out of all of us because it is literally your job, being our Twitch overlord. I mean, do you find that there are different, like, what are the ones that you enjoy versus what are the ones that are better for your job, and like, how does that sort of function?
That's okay. So those are two different answers, right? Because games on stream where it's not a hand-holdy quest tend to be immediately spoiled by chat. Like immediately, you're somewhere near the quest giver, right? The quest giver might have rendered somewhere in your render distance, whatever game it is you're playing, and someone in chat will be like, "Oh my gosh, you have to go to the lost village of like Fangorn, and you have to talk to this guy, and then he'll give you this secret quest for this boots," and that'll all be like one chat message, and you're like, I'm new here. What?
Yeah.
So for me, I like ones that are like a little more clearly like laid out and are somewhere in the middle ground, right? So it'll be 14 does this in a really, or Final Fantasy 14 does this in a really interesting way, where it'll be like, all right, go to this place and figure out what's happened, and it'll just be like a big old circle. Right, and you have to explore, and normally it's behind some weird piece of geometry or whatever, but those tend to be more fun than just like, go exactly from this place to exactly this place and mash through all of the dialogue. So like, I kind of prefer the middle ground, unless it's Hollow Knight. And then as far as I'm concerned, Hollow Knight has done one thing wrong ever, and it knows what it did, and
what did
they do?
Hollow Knight's mapping is inaccessible to because you have to trade real power for the compass. But Hollow Knight's like sort of sly system, like you can kind of figure it out by talking to people that there is another key that you need for sly. Spoilers for Hollow Knight, I guess. And finding it, you can find it organically at any point in the quest, right? So like, you don't have to have talked to people. You can just interact with the world. In the right kind of game, that's amazing. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So that's me.
No, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Jordan is drawing, so I'll ask you, Allie. When you, what type of quest do you find yourself gravitating toward?
I guess I like I saw the word hybrid up there. I guess I thought of Breath of the Wild. I really enjoyed because it did tell you where to go. I like being told where to go. I do look up guides a lot because I get stuck a lot. So I'm more of a casual gamer, but I really like that they had the like Korok system. So like everywhere you could find you can find these little puzzles that weren't on the map or anything, and you could just do that and feel rewarded for completing like part of that quest, because that's kind of an overarching quest, but they never tell you where they are, so it's fun to like happen upon those.
Yeah, it's like a light touch, right? It's
Yeah.
like you have all the stuff and you're going to try to save Hyrule and whatever, but
Right.
like you'll run into things to give you that tiny bit of dopamine that you weren't
Yeah.
expecting. Yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
and they're not like super hard, but it's like, oh, this looks like a thing, and then you do it, and you're like, oh, it was a thing. That's great. But I do really like being told where to go. But I do like that they don't have like arrows above their heads or anything.
Yeah.
So it's still like, oh, there's this point on the map, and then I have to explore that area to figure out what it wants me to do. And I think the DLC did that really well, where they gave you like the poem, and then you had to figure out what the poem meant, but it also told you where to go. So then you put those two pieces together, but it wasn't like holding your hand too much. So it was
Yeah.
like a nice little thing to figure out. So I like those types of quests where I have to use my brain a little bit, but I'm not like being handheld the whole way. But I also enjoy those as well because I like brainless things.
That makes
so.
sense. From my MMO days, I used to play World of Warcraft incessantly. I think I'm 9 years clean, 10 years clean. I don't know what is time. Thank you. But like, it's funny because I was always interested in the lore. I always mashed through the lore and like would look it up later because like kind of like what the episode says, those types of quests do incentivize you, especially if you're like you're trying to get an item or you're trying to keep up with your guild or you're trying to do any of that stuff. Like time is not a finite resource, or is a finite resource, or isn't. And it would make me just be like, well, no, the important thing is that like I get this done and I keep moving forward, so I'm not like holding back my team or my guild or whatever. On the flip side, so I did that, and I don't think that was effective for me in that particular range. But again, I do really like now sort of like laid back, casual style of quest design because you can just after a long day just kind of let a game sort of flow through you. I say that, of course, that I've been just literally playing Elden Ring to relax, which is the opposite.
I still don't know how that. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't get that.
Elden Ring, I think, is accepting I find there's one quest in Elden Ring.
Live?
No, that's the thing. That's not the quest in Elden Ring. The quest is to become the Elden Lord. That's it. I know there's storylines and arcs, but I don't personally think of them as that because you run across them organically. And I know some people hate that, and that's totally fine. For me, it makes me feel like the less labeled a quest is, and the more I just happen to come across it, the more the world, if that's what the game is trying to deliver, the more the world feels alive.
In a lot of these cases, there's a lot of joy in the discovery of potential,
Yes.
right? So like in Elden Ring, and in a couple of cases I can think of in other games as well, I think one of the things we all enjoy is the moment when like, oh, it's a thing. Oh, there's something, and like you feel clever. Right,
Yeah.
you feel clever because like you found the thing that it feels like the developers left there for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like at some point, it stops feeling like, oh, we left this here for the player, right, the mythical player, right?
Right.
But you found it, right? You on your own found it, and that moment of discovery is like magical.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny, we made the joke, of course, in the episode about Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest. How many people in the audience have played that game on the NES? Has there been like a few of you? Okay, great. That game will never leave my mind because of exactly what Will just said. Even though it's an NES and an NES game and it has its own limitations and it's old and my bones are turning to dust literally as we discuss it. That game when I was a kid, I felt like it was like it had infinite possibilities even though it didn't. Like its design was so obtuse that I still think about it and it like locks me in. What are they doing?
I don't know what you guys
All right, hold on. But I need you to know which one of them is about to get a rock dropped on his head, because I'm always the one that like puts down the rock right in the right spot to get the Korok, and then you get ya-ta-ta, you found me, woohoo! And then I always accidentally drop a rock on the Korok
Yeah.
because I'm like,
Why by accident?
Yeah, why by accident?
It's in the name. You can tell it's early.
Twitch chat knows what you did. They know. They'll back me up on that.
I've been putting the punch-in on our Twitch chat right now.
Yeah,
I
right.
guarantee.
Yeah, there's a punch in.
All right.
And then Jordan, now that Allie's drawing, real quick, sort of so Jordan on the side, by the way, does develop tabletop RPG systems for funsies and has made some cool stuff.
Yeah.
So like, what about you with as far as what quest design you prefer?
Well, that puts me on the spot. I feel like I feel like I agree with Allie with Breath of the Wild. It's just the one that comes to my mind of just wandering
We
around
don't
the world.
play a
and
lot of
finding
games.
stuff.
We're parents.
don't out me. I mean, no, we love games. We play a lot of games, but it's we don't get to play as much as we would like anymore. But yeah, I mean, with role-playing games, I think it's the same way to have that open world but that's a little bit different, right? That's,
Sure.
I think there's something behind this rock, and you're like, there's not supposed to be, but yes, there is.
Just the DM coming up with yeah.
Yes, there's a dragon.
Or like whatever it is, yeah. Rosa!
Yay!
Thank you very much. Wow, it made it. Wow.
But
It's
how
a
much is in
Magnus
there?
miracle.
All right, we're set for Q&A. Yeah.
Never didn't have it, not even
Wow, I
once.
cannot
Always
believe.
had it.
I'm sorry. Again, I'm going to break the flow here. It has been such a dumb adventure to get this merch in my hands for a month. I can't thank you, Rosa, for going and grabbing that. That was very sweet. Thank you. Oh my God. Okay. Well, so to Jordan's point,
I literally just drew a sword. I had no other plan besides.
you're passing it back and forth.
Yeah.
To Jordan's point,
Can I like unwrap these things?
no, we'll give them to people.
Fine.
So, to Jordan's point, there was an interesting thing we were discussing at dinner last night. Jordan was saying how we don't have a lot of time to play as many games as we'd like to anymore because various reasons, children, work, other responsibilities, etc. And then something interesting happened, and we're not going to talk about the politics of this, but we're going to talk about what happened. Will, do you want to mention what happened in a interesting proceeding?
Sure. So there's a piece of news that's going on right now here in the U.S. That requires a voice vote by a large number of people, and at one point, a member of this esteemed, distinguished governing body was heard to cast his vote in the manner of Leroy Jenkins, and he did it. Like that.
He didn't say Leroy Jenkins. He voted for the person he voted for, but he said like,
Yeah.
Zoe Kroll, or like whatever the thing, right?
Right.
Like,
And someone asked him, wait, was that a Leroy? And he goes, heck yeah, it was Leroy Jenkins.
so the interesting thing here is while I feel like we've all sort of grown up with games and it's become more of a staple in all of our lives, it's now seeping into weird, fun places.
Right, and it's becoming comfortably mainstream in a way, right? Like, and Leroy is probably the ultimate sort of example of that, right? Leroy went from a funny meme video about WoW that like people who were into video games liked and enjoyed, right? And then it became a Jeopardy question, and now it's being referenced in like institutions of government as a method of making one's opinion heard. What? Let's just talk about this real quick. A dude, it's a funny joke. It's a funny machinima, right? By the way, it didn't. We're all clear on that, right? Leroy wasn't an actual raid pull. It was okay. Cool, great. So it went from a joke about people going in too early, a very specific niche experience that like many of it, who here has played an MMO, who's had someone pull early.
I would say, just looking at the audience, 33.3 repeating of course,
yeah.
percent of the audience.
Right, yeah, right. Who's been the one that's pulled early?
Oh, yeah.
Right, okay, cool, great. I'm the healer and I pull early because I'm terrible like that. So that's a niche experience, right? But the idea has now become so broad that like, gaming has outgrown the idea of just playing games. And that's weird to say, right? Because games are such an interactive medium,
Yeah, like nothing made this point for me more than when I was home for the holidays, and me and my family watched a film on.
Sorry.
No, keep going. Me and my family watched a film that just released on the Netflix box known as Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, right? And when the Agatha Christie, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Stephen Sondheim, and Natasha Lyonne Among Us game that Benoit Blanc was playing. Sorry, this is a very minor. It's not
Very
even a spoiler.
early on,
Very
yeah.
early. Benoit Blanc is playing
Ruined.
Among Us.
Spoilered.
And my mom knew what Among Us was.
Sounds pretty sus to me.
Yeah, right?
Did you watch Revent?
It's weird you say that. My childhood home, has giant heating vents that you absolutely could. Mom?
I'm going to be sitting over here for the rest of the panel, just in case you won't watch him.
That's kind of an interesting, and I was like, wait, you know that game? She's like, yeah, because so-and-so's kid or like whatever, and they play it with their daughter or something. I was like, oh, like, this is something that I just didn't realize would reach that level of, and A, being in that movie alone, and then B, my mom like, I understood that reference. And I was like, all right. Like, so there are weird sort of spots. Is there anything else people have noticed? Like, where's the weirdest Leroy Jenkins mention that we've found, other than, of course, in the U.S. government or the?
I mean,
what do you got?
Oh yeah, Duke Nukem Forever. Yeah. Like,
oh wow,
like
yeah.
It's making it into other games, right? That aren't Hearthstone. Doesn't count. I don't know. Like we on the channel, we will occasionally lovingly refer to Leroy Jenkins as the patron saint of bad ideas.
Yes.
Right. Like I suffer from there's a shiny syndrome. And so sometimes I will get impatient, and the phrase is "time's up, let's do this," right? And that idea, I think, for me has been a big part of that. But I don't know about outside gaming, but I'm also a Twitch streamer, so I don't know that I'm allowed to have any experiences that are like outside gaming culture.
I can't believe you're not on a green screen right now.
Look, there's green on the patch. There's like
it's
green
amazing.
in the patches and everything, right? Yeah, it's amazing. It's not the void.
I wonder if the proliferation of how we consume media has obviously changed. And like when you brought up a Duke Nukem thing, right? Like the thing that I'm seeing now everywhere across TikTok and then on Instagram 2 days later is wow, that's a lot of words. Too bad I'm not reading them. Like it's like that weird sort of like soundbite culture that we're all in now, where anything that's funny in a game or whatever is now remixed beyond remix beyond remix.
Undertale.
Was that Undertale?
No, there's another, and maybe again, it's impossible to tell because algorithm, right? Like you will never know whether that's a thing that's like broader on any of these social media platforms, or it's just your algorithm calling you specifically out again.
I get a lot of Dwarven 4 ads.
I cannot imagine why. After all this, it's still you. That idea that idea that was originally written into a, relatively small, the game is small, its impact is large, game, right, has translated beyond gaming into so many different, like, things. Like if you go to that sound, right, people are using that sound to express all kinds of emotions and feelings.
What's happening on the screen?
Well, you see, we woke Allie and Jordan
up.
up
as good as mine.
and told them that they had to draw for a panel.
All right.
So that's kind of where we're at now.
You don't get just one panel here. You get two. There's two happening.
Is it
Secret panel.
Secret panel.
Is this like dueling panels? Are we gonna get banjos?
We should.
Get a ding, 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 ding. It is MAGFest. I'm pretty sure we can do that.
So this actually kind of brings up another thing. I'm sorry, I'm just tangenting all over the place. Oh God, are there panels? Oh,
By the way, this is normal. We actually have like when we plan this show weekly on Twitch, we have a section called the Plangent, because Matt and I are physically incapable of sticking to scripts, staying within the bounds of our time on Twitch. We promise, staff, we'll end on time here.
I am shocked.
And it's normally fun to see where the conversation goes organically. So this is still the plangent, even though we've already talked about our first planned topic, I think.
Sure.
Kind of.
Look, it's MAGFest. It's also the first panel in the morning of MAGFest. I think we have a slight pass on extending plangents out.
Yeah.
But no, the I don't know how to react.
No, don't let it distract you.
Okay,
We only
no.
have half an hour.
That I was going to make, and that was so with the kind of, now I'm just pontificating on like, what do games mean in our culture? But like because A, it is becoming far more ubiquitous to see gaming and gaming references literally everywhere. And because we've even said multiple times up here, like, oh man, we don't have a lot of times, other than Will, to play as many games as we would like.
I actually want to push back on that.
Yeah.
I don't have as much time to play the games
That
that
is
I
true.
want to play for myself, right? Because like the unfortunate truth of being a Twitch streamer is if it's not popular on Twitch, I don't get to play it, right? Like we'll do one-off game exploration, but like our community is founded on game analysis, game critique, discussing things, talking about accessibility in games, talking about a whole variety of things, but it's founded on conversation, which means that any game that I can't have a conversation while I'm doing doesn't do well, which means I can't play Apex Legends on stream.
I know that really hurts you.
I actually really enjoyed
Apex is great, but yeah.
I really enjoyed Apex for a long time and then got out of it because we did like a one stream test of it just to make sure. And chat was like, yeah, I don't like this. I can't talk to you while you're busy trying to clutch up. It also sucks that I really like Lifeline and she's been nerfed into the dirt. So, there's that. But like, I just want to say it does apply to me too. There are games I want to play
that's 1,000% true. Well, so maybe I'll sort of posit this question to you because
we've never had this much shade thrown at us in real time, so beautifully animated.
oh, if only I could draw.
This is like premium cell phone, right?
So as I was saying,
Is he pointing to himself right now?
yeah,
Point. He's making a point about his point.
Oh.
yeah, we're pointing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
there's
said
a
something
point.
about making a point.
It's
I stopped
somewhere
listening
above our
after
heads.
that, so
Yeah, that's fair.
With the idea, with the idea that gaming is both everywhere and that we don't have infinite time to play games. Something that I have actually run into a little bit working at this channel, but even in talking with friend groups or even about stuff that we're not doing on EC. There's a bit of like I don't want to call it like, I don't know how to put it, like gamer imposter syndrome. Like
Yeah, that's what we were talking about last night.
We were,
Yeah.
like, there's so much out there that we can all not like, we can only know like a sliver of the things going on at a time.
So one of the things that I've been doing a lot, and I did it just this past couple weeks for the Steam winter sale, right, is that we'll go game shopping, like as a community, and like people from the community will be like, what about this game? What about that game? Both for like, am I gonna play this on stream, and do we think people in the community would like it? So it's a whole stream of just like me with a Steam page pulled up, looking at what's on sale, what I think is a good value, recommending stuff that I've played, because I've played a lot of roguelites. And there is more stuff coming out on Steam every year than ever before. It is physically impossible to play all of the games that come out on Steam in a year. And that's only getting worse, right? Like that's only becoming more and more of a problem. Huge air quotes if you're listening in your hotel room. Wake up. Wake up.
Wake up.
Wake up.
Wake up.
Anyway, so there's always going to be stuff that we miss now, right? And so it's not the NES era or even the 64 era or the Game Boy era that many of us grew up in, where there was like, I don't know, Game Boy era. Pokemon came out, and
I remember that game.
Link's Awakening, and Tetris. And there was a bunch of shovelware. And I'm sure there were other games that were individually meaningful to people, but I'm having trouble thinking of another thing that came out for that era that was as widely, that like had as much stuff. So now like it's much harder to hit all of the things that are culturally relevant. Like I don't have time to play Elden Ring.
It's also so much easier to acquire games now because you can literally just go to Steam and find something. Like,
Well, we also make adult money now.
No. So there's many barriers. I'm saying
Yeah.
like I'm saying like before you had to. Me game, please. At first, I thought you were going for more of a Sistine Chapel kind of.
Yeah, I was waiting for the hand of Gaben to like reach out and grant you all of the games on Steam or something.
I mean, both work. But like
That, don't you?
the way that we sort of even acquire them now, A, there's so many of them. B, we're not 12 anymore and don't need a ride to the mall to go pick up
And we know what
Pokemon.
this is, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, that all is helpful. I don't actually, sort of a show of hands, how many people here gets like locked into like one game for like way too long? Yeah. All right, my people. Because like, like I literally was just, and I'm still almost, because I get to play Elden Ring for 2 hours a week, so we've almost beat it on stream. And I've been playing since February, and I was just in that. Now my new hotness / productivity killer is Vampire Survivors, which is the bullet hell is me. But like I get so focused in on things that I can't just keep trying all of these other things.
Well, I actually think that Vampire Survivors and what we're gonna lovingly call the bullet heaven genre, right?
I like that name.
It's the I am the one who bullets, right? You enemies do not bullet, I am the one who bullets, I have become the bullet reaper, right? That kind of thing. Those are actually sort of testaments to the popularity of the bite-sized game, right? Because 20 minutes. Right? 20 minutes, half an hour. Most of them have defined run lengths or defined objectives. They have like a cap out point where like Vampire Survivors is like 20 minutes unless you're doing something very specific. But most of the time it's 20 minutes as a single break. It's digestible, right? There's not the, okay, here's a good example. It's not D&D, right? How many of you are in D&D groups? How many of you have trouble scheduling 4 hours on a regular basis because you're all adults and have a really hard time making that work? Right, it's virtually the same number of hands twitched.
I've been running a certain game for a year now, and we're nowhere near finished. So yeah.
Right, so like the fact that it's accessible and digestible means that there's a new kind of gaming that we all really enjoy, right? And I also think it's really helpful that we identify that a lot of us feel like we're missing out on gamer culture, right? And that's also low-key one of the best things about MAG.
Yes.
Right, because MAG is like, oh, it's just gaming. Like, oh, you haven't heard about this thing? Everyone's excited to share their favorite thing. There's like so many like little like I get that references. There's something for everyone, and it's never felt like I was missing out because I didn't get all the references.
And MAG lets you see a bunch of things that you're not quite like that wouldn't be put in front of you normally. Like what was it? I'm trying to remember the name of the game that I just loved, but we were talking about it. Oh, Super Sharp Birds in the sort of
Good.
like it is a symbol. It's a cabinet in the indie game sort of section.
The experimental stuff, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
like
don't know what they call it.
if you haven't played Super Pointy Birds,
Yeah,
go play it. It's a small cabinet. It's one button.
per player. Technically, it's
One
two
button per
buttons.
player. So all you have to do is your button jumps and sort of it moves your direction, and there's
Yeah,
a
it
point
shifts,
on your bird bill, and you have to collect these little squares, and it's just two people, and if you hit someone in the back, they're dead, and they're paused out for like three seconds.
Right.
Simple.
It's like a minute-long game.
I love it so much. I want it at home. And I would have never found something like that sort of bite-sized goodness, if not for MAGFest. And I don't know. I was blown away by this like wonderfully just easy to understand, quick bite-sized thing.
My turn to get all super philosophical. Not that I don't think I have been. I don't know. That's a problem, I guess.
Philosopho-Will.
Oh, boy. All right. Will Curtiz, teacher of Athens, will now speak. I think MAG reminds us that it's about gaming as a culture, not just individual games. That gaming as a group of people, as a way that we approach fun and playtime and interpersonal relationships and everything that we do for a lot of us is more than the sum of the games, right? Like, it's more than the sum of all of the things that people have put into games. It's also about us, right? And that is deeply comforting for someone who sometimes feels like, because here's one. I'm a Twitch streamer that doesn't play League. I don't particularly like League. Right, yeah, exactly, right? Someone in the back asked, is that legal? As far as I'm aware, no, I'm on the run from the League police.
The only reason that we survive, I think, is our studio director, Jeff, does play League of Legends.
That's true.
That might be the only way we're screwing
I also
around.
have an expired Dota visa that I'm like clutching onto, so every time the League police, I'm like, no, I'm from Dota, leave me alone.
All my paperwork's stuck in Heroes of the Storm at this point.
But that kind of thing, right, really helps. That it's about us. It's about this gathering. It's about that. Yeah, Jordan. Are you waxing on
No,
this?
Ali did that one.
Oh, okay. I like it. It's good.
I don't know. So, Will, are you saying that
He's not looking at it anyway. Let me see that mention.
Yeah.
the real friends are the games
Oh
we did
boy. All right. Okay.
breakfast along the wake up? I just bailed. All right, what do we
Wait,
got?
hold on. Do I have the song from Inception on my phone? Can I just like?
I think because
They're never gonna put us on the channel ever again.
We're just gonna keep getting weirdly emotional about like the state of games and how much they mean to us and how much the community does. So speaking of the community,
Yeah.
I think maybe if anyone wants to do any Q&A, anyone who asks a question will get to choose from a box of either really great prizes you saw get delivered or something mysterious that you probably don't want.
Way to sell that.
So, here, I guess if people want to form a line, if they don't, like, we can pass this around or whatever, but yeah, here you go.
Is that unmuted?
It might,
Is it? Oh, maybe.
a little more?
Hello, beep, boop.
Yeah, I hear sound coming through speakers, and we will remember, of course, MagStaff, to repeat the question because we're good at that.
Cool. Okay, so back to the video showed in questing.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the hybrid design because when it comes to different games, I kind of feel like depending you're going into, there's an expectation of this kind of quest versus that style quest. And with a hybrid design of maybe some of it is very open and some of it is obtuse, I feel that kind of confusing of what you're trying to communicate to a player of what kind of game it can be. And whether it be, it's like how much you either give a player or not give a player when certain information is in the game versus not in the game. And like it's the kind of thing of some of it needs guides, but not everything needs a guide.
Right. So I can restate that question real quick. So the question is, how do you hit the right balance in a hybrid design where there's a lot of information and the player's expectation in a hybrid design is unclear because by definition it's somewhere in between the extremes.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you can either it's like yes, we're gonna have all the quests laid out, and you're like cool with that, or no, this is a game that everything's obtuse, and you'll have to read.
Right.
And figure it out at first.
Yeah, I think the solution, at least for me, and something that I would enjoy in that sort of hybrid style is so long as those styles, all of the things that they're doing, are explicitly given early examples and that I know that those type of things exist. Even if one of the 10% of them is like, just a hint that something else might. Like, as long as they state through gameplay what type of things I'm going to be doing, I would find that less confusing. I do know, I'm trying to think of a game off the top of my head, but I'm not. But I have had experiences where I'm like, well, I don't know, like, am I supposed to do this thing? Like, it never, but you can be led.
I also feel like one of the things that is often underutilized in those games that solves exactly that problem, hints. Have a hint giver. Have a hint giver NPC, right? Let the player choose how guided or unguided they want it to be, right? So when they're stuck, if you're flagged for, I'm supposed to be doing this general thing, or a quest is available to me, right? And then I'm stuck, I can go talk to, the wise wizard of Oaken Crest, right? And you will tell me a hint that will get me on the way, and I feel like that's a good thing. All right.
All right, thank you. Come pick a prize that just got here. And next question while we're...
Hello.
Hello.
It's working? Okay. Let's say there's points in the days where you just have like a bad day or whatever and you don't feel like playing a new game. and you go back to a comfort game. What's a good comfort game that's not? It doesn't have to be an MMO, but something you always play just to like decompress every day that you play a little too much. Like for instance, I play Civilization 5 and 6 way too much.
Fair.
I have too many hours between those two.
I feel like those two games could comprise all of actual Civilization. So the question was, how do you, or what are games that are comfort games, but not like big sprawling games? Like generally small, I mean, Civ 5 and 6 are big sprawling games, but not like in the MMO space. For me, right now that's Minecraft, but that's modded so far, it's practically its own game. I think the other one for me has always been Gungeon. And Enter the Gungeon is actually one of the things that like Matt and I bonded over when I started at the channel. Enter the Gungeon is probably one of the best bullet hell roguelites that's ever been made.
The Ammonomicon, the physical one, is on my coffee table at home. I love it.
I could be persuaded to get in a nerd fight over whether it's better than Isaac. And that's sort of my...
Mine is. Even though I detest the company at this point, I'm free to play Hearthstone. I'm stuck on that. You guys?
I feel like I bet ours is the same. It's probably Minecraft. Right?
Minecraft's a good one. I've been thinking, because we've been getting our 5-year-old into playing games. She likes playing games, but I also really enjoy the games we get to play with her. So Mario Kart's a good one because it's fast. So like 15 minutes and we get to play a game. And we've been really into Shredder's Revenge.
Oh, so good.
So it's like, I love button smashing.
Yeah.
It feels good when you're done.
Yeah.
And we can do a level and we're good. So
Please come select a prize. Thank you very much.
I feel like we could categorize that as low skill floor, high skill ceiling. Right?
Yeah.
You can like MLG clutch out in Minecraft or any of those all the time, but
Yeah.
Next.
Hello.
First, I would.
Oh.
Is this on?
Yeah.
Okay. First, I would add Kirby is good for that too because we have 6 minions that watch you guys' show with us all the time, and so I have actually promised I would ask a question if I got a chance.
Sure.
If Zoe could play a game or could be in a game, what game would Zoe actually prefer to play?
Okay, so the question is if Zoe, our beloved kitty cat mascot, if she could be in a game or play a game, what game would she be in or play? Matt, this is all you.
Sure. The easy answer would be Stray modded so that she's actually in Stray.
you don't think it would be like Bass Pro
Hold on.
2 or something?
But I think because she is such a chaos gremlin, maybe Grand Theft Auto Online. Thank you. Hello. Yeah.
Grand Theft Auto, yeah.
So with the less time to play games, what is your selection criteria for those limited times when a new game comes out?
A, I love your mask, by the way.
Yeah.
Very cool.
The question was, with less time to play games, how do you pick games to play? I kind of... So two things. One, I need, it is taking me a while to realize this, stop feeling guilty about using the refund window on Steam for games that don't have demos.
Yeah.
Like, that's a really easy one, right? And I generally give a game about 2 hours, and if it's not done, and if it hasn't impressed me in about 2 hours, then I'm probably gonna refund it and move on. My other big selection criteria is know what the game is doing and is it doing that thing, right? Like, what's the point of the game, right? I don't want a game that's sprawling all over into fringe stuff that I don't really care about. I want a game that's delivering its experience well. Is it a game that's gonna make me cry? Is it focused on making me cry? Is it a game that's about combat? What is the game doing? And that's kind of and I know that's sort of an esoteric criteria, but it's sort of an I'll know when I see it thing.
Yeah, it's mood, honestly, for me, or research. Like, if we're talking about a certain thing, then I'm gonna go try to play at least some of those games. But again, that's not the same. Like, that's me. That's a cop-out answer. I'm sorry, but yeah, it's honestly that's how I do most of my selection. Otherwise, this last year it has just been Elden Ring.
Right. Playing games for work is also tricky because it doesn't feel like work, but then we realize that it is work. But then we should stop working, which means stop playing games. But I like playing games, so like, what?
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like my answer also sounds kind of like a cop-out. It's just like, do I want to play that? Then I'm just gonna do it. Like
Yeah.
Like if I get the desire to play that game, then I follow through on that desire.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
it's not really like a thing I can say, well, it's if it follows A, B, and C, then now I'm gonna play it. It's more like, is that thing grabbing me? Then I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm probably on the panel the closest to like a game sommelier at this point because I've played.
But you know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's right. I said that about sommeliers. What? Come at me, big sommelier. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I
He
think
does know the age of the game by the pixel.
Oh yes,
Tannins!
oh yes, a 32-bit vintage. 'Twas a good
Anyway,
year.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Please.
Oh, I default to Pokemon.
There we
If
go.
I don't
Yeah,
know what to
that's-
play, I play Pokemon.
Yeah,
that's what
that's
I
a good one.
Hello.
So we talked about the importance of discovery in like the more open quest design. How do you? That's something that kind of requires time. How do you do that in the new like bite-sized genre that's still coming out?
Oh, that's a really good question. So the question was how do you meld the idea of discovery with bite-sized genre, with like smaller games?
I have a decent answer for that, and I think it is Vampire Survivors.
Yeah,
I don't know
I
if you've
was gonna-
played that, because like when I started, I was like, oh, this is simple. I get it. Like, I understand. And then every time I did something else, there was a new thing. There was something new that I discovered, a new ability, a new thing, a new character, and like I was like, oh, that makes total sense. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really
Quick
good one.
discoverability.
Yeah, discovering like combos can be as cool as discovering quests.
Yeah.
Right? Because you figured it out for the first time, right? Unless you have Twitch chat, and then you never figure anything out ever, and Twitch chat knows better. And then
Hello.
Hello. So my question is about modern game development. Obviously, there's success stories for like having games that are immersive and display quests. So like for every Breath of the Wild and Elden Ring, though, you also have like No Man's Sky or Cyberpunk. Like, oh, we're not going to crunch. Well, we're crunching. So
Yeah.
for developers that don't have limited resources and limited time to get their games out, do you think it's more important to have kind of the immersive world building hold up the story, like the immersion of the game, in the world or in the quests? So something like Myst, right? Like you think back to Myst,
Yeah.
the CD. Like, would Myst be a better game if the graphics were worse, or if the quests themselves were like the puzzles were worse?
Okay, so we need to restate that question. The question is, in a world that's about in a game that's about an immersive world, is it better to have better quests or better world because the two function symbiotically? And I'm going to give a really weird answer. If you can't do both of those in a way that satisfies, cut back the scope of the game. Right? And a really great example of this is actually Okami. Okami shouldn't have had its last level. Like, if you've ever played Okami, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? The game would have been better if we hadn't gone on the weird boss rush spaceship to the moon. Like, what? Cut the scope to make the quality better, right? I would rather play a $10 4-hour game that delivers on that one specific experience perfectly, and I will recommend it to everyone who's watching, and I will find ways to sell that game, than to play an 8-hour game at $15 that doesn't deliver that same experience, right? The quality of the experience is really important. We're seeing a lot more really good, short, small projects, right? Tunic. Probably one of my top games of 2022, and Entropy Center, another one, right? Both single dev projects, right? That kept their scope to exactly what they wanted to do. They both do environmental storytelling, they both do organic quest sort of discovery, but they don't overstay their welcome. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like Stardew.
Yeah.
Kind of like Stardew, exactly.
Please come grab a thing. Thank you so much.
Next.
Hello.
Hello. Is this on?
It should be on.
Yeah, I think it is. Firstly, I'd like to point out that when you said you were on the run from the League Police, you missed an opportunity to say you were on the run from the Riot Police.
I have been pun-upped, as it were. I shall retire in shame to a small villa.
All right, my real question is, when it comes to quest design, how do you think the rise of the internet has affected the way game designers design quests? Like
That is
with
so-
Simon's
Great
quest,
question.
So,
I don't
yeah.
think it's affected it at all.
No, not at all. The question was, with the rise of the internet, how do we think the quest design has sort of changed? We actually, so I don't know if you've noticed this too, but we just recently did a channel split where we're keeping the history and mythology and literature on one channel and the gaming stuff on another. And we've been doing on the original channel videos to point people in that direction. So the corresponding video to this quest design video is a half-hour playthrough of Simon's Quest and talking about the design of that sort of thing. Now, in that, we keep referencing both that this is a game that was designed in a time for you to have read the entire booklet before you start, or nothing makes sense. And there's a 14-page Nintendo Power Guide, and we have little graphics sort of coming up of Beans holding the different things as they're doing it. So it has changed vastly. The expectation being you could, Elden Ring comes out in a week later, we have 80 to 90% of it just in a wiki, people can look it up. And also to Twitch chat, people will just start spoiling stuff if you're playing it online. I think as far as the design is concerned, people aren't reading booklets aren't sort of there anymore, right? So you're either going to make sure that your game has all of the information up front in the experience that you're starting with, or you're going to just sort of be well, people are going to figure it out and they're going to write wikis about it anyway. I don't know if there's a better or worse way, but I think that's kind of what it is,
Yeah, I agree.
I have to give up trying to trick people because
Yeah.
just make it cool.
Yeah,
Make
make
it
it cool. Stop
make
trying
it
to trick
cool,
people.
yeah.
We got about 5 minutes left. Let's do lightning round. We got some
Yeah.
pins left. We got a mug.
Next question.
We also have the terrible prizes if you want
Yeah,
those
yeah.
too.
My
Hello.
name's Erwin, Emerald Arcana. I was discussing with a partner the other day, and she was mentioning that one of the games of the year was Wordle. And Wordle is an interesting example because it's kind of this thing where it's a game, but it doesn't have the bro dude gamer culture stuff associated with it.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering what's your take on something like Wordle versus all of these other more hardcore games that have culture, story, quests, and etc.
I have a great response to this. Wordle is heir to the Words with Friends fortune. And the
Connecticut Words with Friends.
Yes, the Beaumont, Connecticut Words with Friends. No, the idea word games, particularly social word games, are a big demographic that doesn't get talked about a lot in a lot of bigger circles, but we've actually looked at the numbers. Jeff and I did a stats deep dive on the gaming industry and people who play games. And do you know why no one talks about the social word games and hidden object genres? It's because they're primarily played by women in the late 20s to early 30s demographic. And that's why. And that's a huge untapped market, and Wordle really hits that, but that demographic doesn't do as much of the toxicity as a lot of other demographics does, because it's not.
And therefore doesn't get into the news cycle, and therefore doesn't.
Right. It doesn't. It's not the bad gamer culture, whatever that is. It's not the toxic gamer culture, but it is still a gamer culture. It's just one that doesn't get talked about, right? And it's a huge market. It's also for Tetris, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you for the
Please
question.
come. Hello.
Next.
As far as Wordle not having gamer culture attached to it, for the last, I don't even know how long, year and a half, my mom and several of her friends, every time they get together, spend a solid 15 minutes, 30 minutes discussing whatever yesterday's Wordle was.
That's amazing. I love
my
that.
My partner and a group of friends do the same thing. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just curious how long that's going to last at this point because they're showing no signs of stopping.
I think that comes down to individual social groups. It's an activity that they're enjoying together, and they can sort of come together, and that's what sort of makes it's a great starting point for a conversation or a hangout or something. So
it had me and my cousin texting every day for about 4 months.
Wordle reconnected more people, I think, than we give it credit for. It's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
it was pretty great. I really
it's
enjoyed
a
it.
really good excuse for if you haven't heard from someone for a week or so to just send them the grid and then start a conversation.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Do you have a question?
In light of all this, what is your favorite visual pun that has appeared in an extra credits video?
Oh, that's really good. I'm gonna leave that to them. But please pass the mic in.
You guys answer this quick, because I won't be able to think of one.
I don't know. I did a lot in Animal Farm that I liked.
Yeah.
That's what comes to my mind, but not a specific one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I did a body pillow in that was the Rasputin April Fool's one that I did a body pillow in that he was holding. I thought that was really funny.
I'm always a fan. Let's just go simple. Whenever I say because like I do that a lot, they always draw well. And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Or the butts. We do cat butts. I love doing cat butts.
Cat butts.
Hello.
So both here on the panel and on the channel, you've touched quite a bit on how games have become more than just being video games. So for example, I just spent 200 hours completing Persona 5 Royal, and a friend of mine has tagged along for most of it, and like I've streamed it and he's watched me play. And the third semester led to a discussion, because we watched and played it together, it led to a 4-hour discussion about our values of truth versus happiness. So my question for you guys is, what is some of your favorite games that have really triggered those kinds of hard or tough conversations about topics that maybe weren't just about gaming, but about broader subjects?
Sure. I get to cop out and say we do that all the time. That's one of the things that I really enjoy about our Twitch chat is that we make the conversation about the game more broad, right? So we'll talk about. I think we brought up a whole bunch in, what was it? The last campfire. We talked about mortality and coming to terms with the idea of death.
Yeah, mine was going to be Spiritfarer with the same exact thing. I got into deep conversation.
I cried so much. I have no more tears to give you.
Thank you so much. Let's do one more question because then we got to get booted. Hello.
All right, mine's short and sweet. What's been the hardest/scariest extra credits episode to make?
Hardest/scariest extra episode to make. I still go back. This is going to sound weird. The Ariana Grande concert episode.
No, there's actually a really good reason for that.
Because we were experimenting with something, right? Like
it was
off the cuff. It was something I experienced on a Sunday that I didn't sort of experience. That's my answer. So please take a pen. Yeah. Everybody, thank you so much for coming out so early on MAGFest. We love you very much. Please come hang out with us. We'll be talking a little bit.
We'll be right over there.
Out there.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Oh, thank you.
Okay.